don't believe me, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure I believe you. But I still want that letter.
Dead Reckoning from 1946 was a fantastic murder mystery crime movie starring Humphrey Bogart and Lizabeth Scott. It's a film where there's plenty of those noir elements that I love so much, and it just keeps you hooked from beginning to end. Really love this film. I'll give it a summary, and then I'll offer some closing thoughts. So the film opens up. It's a rainy night in the city, and we've got Bogart as the character Rip Murdoch. What a great name. Now he appears to be injured, and he's on the run, and he sneaks into a church to hide. Now, while he's there, he sees Father Logan, played by actor James Bell, and Rip just wants to talk with him, wants to do some confession. So there he is in the shadows, and he opens up and he begins to tell his story. He feels his life is in danger, so he wants his story told before anything happens to him. So in classic noir style, we cut to a flashback, and most of the film takes place through his story being told as we hear his voiceover. And we go to the past. It's a scene of him and his friend Johnny, actor William Prince. They're on a train, and they're coming back from the war. And they find out on the way that they're going to be receiving a Medal of Honor. However, Johnny seems reluctant about this. And as the train arrives at the station, Rip is looking for him and sees Johnny running off. He hops on another train, and he's gone. Well, this is a mystery to Rip. Why did his friend vanish? So he is determined to track him down, find out where he went. So his investigation leads him to Johnny's hometown. It's this fictitious place of Gulf City in the southern United States. I mean, honestly, it could have passed for 1940s era Florida. But anyhow, Rip reads in a newspaper article that Johnny is wanted for the murder of a character named Stuart Chandler, who was a wealthy husband of a club singer named Coral Chandler. And then he finds out during his investigation from a police radio that a body has been brought to the morgue. So he goes and he investigates and he discovers that it's Johnny's body. He's been burned terribly. His corpse had been retrieved from a car crash. But he knows it's Johnny because there was a chunk of metal that had been a pin that belonged to Johnny. It's now all melted. But that's enough to show Rip, hey, this was his friend that has died.
But I knew all at once I had a job. They don't give out the Congressional Medal to dead guys wanted for murder, but he was going to get it even if he got it on his grave. And I was going after whoever tried to jip him out of it.
Well, Rip wants to know what's going on. His friend was blamed for murder. He doesn't believe it, and now his friend is dead. So he continues his investigation. He has a lead about a guy named Lewis, who was witness at Johnny's trial. And he works at this place called the Sanctuary Club. So Rip goes there, and he talks with this guy Lewis at the bar. He's a waiter. He was friends with Johnny, and he has a letter from Johnny to give to him. Kind of the MacGuffin of the film, you could say. Now, it's here that Rip meets the character Coral, played by the lovely actress Lizabeth Scott. They go to a table together to talk. Now, Rip seems suspicious of her, that she betrayed Johnny and testified against him. But she pleads with him that she had to, and she just wants to know from Rip, where is he? But before she can find out much more, the announcer tells the audience there that she's going to sing. And sure enough, the spotlight is on her, and she starts singing away directly to Rip.
There's no otherwise. Don't want your arms, don't want your lips. If your heart is mine to the core.
Well, the two go dancing together, and she keeps probing with questions, wondering what happened to Johnny. Well, he breaks the news to her that he's dead, and she's very upset about it. Now they take a seat, and he gives her a cigarette, because, you know, as he says, a couple deep drags will help her feel better. Bogart and his health tips, I love it. Well, the character Martinelli shows up, and he's played by Morris Karnofsky, and he comments on Coral's dancing and says that she shouldn't have stopped, and he suggests that maybe she should go and play the roulette wheel, and she agrees, almost like she has to, according to Rip's internal monologue. And again, we hear his monologue throughout the film. You know, ever since he started talking to the priest earlier, his narrative kind of helps drive us through the story. So Coral does really poorly at roulette, so Rip steps in and helps her recoup some of the loss through some of his expert craps playing. By the way, I love these old crime films because dice always kind of come into play. It reminds me of like Glenn Ford playing dice in Buenos Aires in films like Gilda. So anyhow, Rip, of course, he's an expert at the dice. He wins her money back, wins $16,000, which she seems nervous about collecting. And Rip is the man, and he keeps the dice as a prize as well.
If it's all the same to you, friend, I'd like that particular pair for a souvenir. Much obliged.
However, when he goes to collect his money, Martinelli gives him a drink, and Rip suspects it's going to be a laced drink, and sure enough, he drinks it and he passes out. You know, it seemed a little weird. Maybe he could have done like a comedic spit take or something to get out of this situation, but whatever. He wakes up later in his room and discovers that beside him is Louis, dead, his neck broken. Now he hides the body quickly in some hotel laundry and then quickly changes into his pajamas because he suspects people are on the way. And sure enough, some detectives are there responding to a tip, and they knock on his door. So he answers the door, acts all innocent, but he kind of goes along and makes it look like he had been woken up and nothing to see here, no dead bodies or anything like that. So the detectives leave, but he knows now his life is in danger. So the next day, Rip talks to Coral, and they leave together. They're going to go out for a seaside lunch. Rip tells Coral that Johnny's letter was written in a code, and she tells him that she saw Johnny and her husband struggle on the night of the murder. So pieces of the mystery are slowly coming together here. But where is this letter? Also, during the lunch, check out that game of catch in the background. Fun on the beach. So they both go to visit with the character of McGee. He's played by actor Wallace Ford. He's one of those great, goofy actors. He shows up in old Universal monster films like The Mummy's Hand. I like him a lot. And they try to convince him to help them with breaking into Martinelli's safe. Now, he won't do it, but he shows them how they can do it. So they make their way to Martinelli's beach house. They've made a fake call to lure him away, and Rip makes his move. He sneaks into Martinelli's empty office and breaks into the safe, but the letter that he wants is not there. In fact, it's not anywhere. It's not on the desk or anywhere in his office, although he finds evidence that Martinelli was trying to crack the code himself. Suddenly, an unseen assailant clubs Rip, and he's out cold.
And suddenly, I got a whiff of jasmine. For a second, I thought it might have been... It was like going out the jump door. I was falling through space.
Well, when he comes to, Martinelli is there with Krause. He's played by actor Marvin Miller, who does a great job playing the creepy henchman here. He beats up Rip for a while, and then Martinelli returns to ask him more questions, now that he's been softened up. Come on, it's an old crime film. They have to do stuff like that. But Rip has a scheme, and he tells them that unless he returns to his hotel by 11:15 that night, the hotel manager will turn over a letter to the police, one with proof that Martinelli killed Lewis. Well, Martinelli believes it, and he sends Krause to the hotel with Rip to retrieve this letter. But when they arrive, the cops just happen to be there. They see Rip with Krause, and Rip uses this to make a scene, telling them that Krause has a gun, and there's a skirmish, and Krause slugs the cop and runs off, and Rip gets away as well. So now we're back in current time. Rip wraps up his story with the priest. Rip thinks that Coral may have stolen the letter, and he goes to confront her. He's convinced that there was this scent of jasmine, her perfume, at the place where he was clubbed on the head. But she pleads her innocence and says it was just the smell of night-blooming jasmine plants. Now, he doesn't completely trust her at this point. And he gets Coral to admit that she killed her husband in self-defense and then gave the murder weapon to Martinelli to get rid of it. And Martinelli has been blackmailing her. So Coral's ready to call the police and turn herself in, but Rip stops her, kisses her Hollywood style, and then he collapses. The poor guy's been through a lot. He got beaten up by that Krause character and all that stuff. And he wakes up a few days later, a little more refreshed. He's a new man, and he promises to Coral that they can run off together. But first, his friend McGee arrives with a bag filled with fire grenades from the war. And Rip plans to use these when he goes to face off against Martinelli. Okay, I'm trying to summarize the film, and I don't want to give much more away, because there is an amazing ending to this film. There are some really neat twists and turns coming up. It's an epic ending to this film, so I'll stop the summary here and move into some closing thoughts. Dead Reckoning was produced by Columbia Pictures and was directed by John Cromwell. I will come right out and say that I loved this movie. This is some of the stuff that makes for classic film noir. You have an edgy protagonist on the run from the law, the femme fatale, who may or may not be using the hero of this film. A cunning nemesis, along with a creepy thug doing all of his dirty work. There's a murder mystery that we're trying to solve with some wild plot twists, plenty of dark shadows, smoky bars, and of course, rain. And what an ending. Wow. I mean, this was just great. And Bogart, to me, felt right at home in his element here. I loved his voiceover, driving us through the story, leaving us wondering if his character is even going to make it out of this one. Now, sure, you could watch a film like this and come away thinking that maybe the film borrowed some elements from like The Big Sleep or The Maltese Falcon. And sure enough, Bogart's character did have kind of a Marlowe feel to him, what with the voiceover and the quips and so on. But you know what? It's also a unique film in its own right. And I loved the chemistry of Bogart with Lizabeth Scott. Bogart's character is jaded and distrustful, and maybe never really gives in completely to the wiles of Lizabeth Scott's character, a woman who early on in the film seems to have fallen head over heels for this tough guy. Or has she? And I like that, his skeptical side, never really giving in to her, but primarily he just wants to get to the bottom of the mystery of his friend's murder. One of the things I love from films of this era is that theme of the jaded World War II veteran returning home, trying to find their place again. Films like Ride the Pink Horse with Robert Montgomery. It's one that comes to mind. And here, I'd argue, you see something similar. Bogart's character, he's back in the world again, but losing one of his close friends right away, a buddy of his from the war. We see that his sense of loyalty drives him to go as far as he can with this investigation, to find out what happened, even to the point of not completely falling for those romantic enticements of Lizabeth Scott's character. Bogart's character is often in the shadows and the gloom. He's facing some very nasty situations, all in order to get to the truth, and that's what makes this so good. It's just his determination that keeps him going to the end, to solve this murder. Now, some observations about some of the supporting characters. I thought it was great seeing Wallace Ford again as the likable safecracker character, and Marvin Miller was just perfectly cast as an evil Krauss character who gives Bogart the smackdown. And hey, when there's a nasty villain beating up the hero, there's another film noir checkbox for you. It was interesting to read that the role of Coral Chandler was originally intended for Rita Hayworth, but she was already committed by her estranged husband, Orson Welles, for the film The Lady from Shanghai. So Columbia went with Lizabeth Scott instead. Who knows, maybe they saw some resemblance to Lauren Bacall, at least with her husky voice. But I thought she was great in this film. Now, there's a funny inside joke in this film. Early in the movie, as Bogart is on the train, right after they discover that his friend is going to be getting the Medal of Honor, Bogart's character makes this comment.
How's that, bud? The Congressional with a baby blue ribbon. Won't you look pretty standing up there with a head man? Maybe he'll even let you sit on his piano.
And what's funny is Bogart's character, he's making an inside joke about a photo of President Harry S. Truman, who was photographed playing piano with Lauren Bacall, who's Bogart's wife, obviously, who was posing on top of the piano. It was taken as part of a National Press Club appearance for the troops back in 1945. So, kind of funny to see that reference, and apparently the president's wife wasn't too fond of that picture. I also chuckled at the scene where Bogart, he's at the Gulf View Hotel, calls the office to complain about the radio options, and he's using a fake Southern accent here.
Listen, honey child, haven't you all got any local radio news programs in this fair city of yours? All I get's commercials and a lot of that apple Pan Dowdy.
And now I had to look this up. Apple Pan Dowdy was a reference to a popular song at the time, Shoo-Fly Pie and Apple Pan Dowdy. It's just one of those things I find amusing from old films. I'm always learning things, and Shoo-Fly Pie, for what it's worth, was my grandfather's favorite dessert. So, kind of fun. I had to look into that, and I've really gone off track here with some of these. So, I'll wrap up the review before I get into something even weirder like the details of how to mix a Ramos Gin Fizz. Anyhow, that's Dead Reckoning from 1946. It was a remarkable film noir with two excellent leads, Humphrey Bogart and Lizabeth Scott, that paired up in a very enjoyable murder mystery story with plenty of twists and turns and a very unexpected ending. Seriously, go track down this film and watch it. It's a great film. It's worth checking out.